Welcome to the first in a couple of videos where we're looking at our original MCE analytics engine, which we've recently just put a new AngularJS front end on it, and that's made it much easier to actually set up and configure. So really the purpose of this video is to go through and give you a brief overview into the functionality behind setting up MCE. We've got another video which will be talking about some of the analytics that we've got, and we've got another one which is looking at the widgets which allow you to create your own dashboard and solutions. But this one is going to focus on the setup. So first of all, when you log in, you've got access to your login account over here in some profile settings. There is all the details to log in for this demonstration are available on our main Meniscus website. Look at the MCE demonstration page, and you've got the login details. So when you log in, first of all, you're logging into a company, and you can have, if you've got access to multiple companies, you'll see that in here, but this is just one company. And again, you'll have access to any sites that you've got access to. So this demo has just got 2 sites. So we're looking at a real-time electricity, which is a home energy electricity monitoring solution, which is running in real time. So down the left-hand side, you've got the key functionality within MCE. So at any point we can create new things. Now this is a read-only account, so we can't create anything, but you can see how it works. So that is of creating a new company, or if you haven't gone to site, there's a new site, you can create new sites. Everything in MCE has an API call associated to it. So we've shown the API link which presents the information that you're seeing on the page in question. And the purpose of that is that we've got a whole load of detailed API information on our main website, and this actually just shows it to you in practice, how it works in practice. So you can use those API links to do everything you want, you're seeing here, but in your own applications. So that's the API link. So company, basically you've just got an option. You can look at the fields you want to look at, and you can edit those using that little edit button over here. So you can change all the parameters for a company, sorry. I'm just going to actually click on this view structure button because it's quite a useful feature to have. What it allows you to do is to look at, this is the company demo site. It shows you the site that you're accessing. It then looks at the groups that you've got access to. So we'll cover on groups in a minute. Basically groups are used for reporting. They're just groups of items that you might be interested in. So in the group here of reporting, I've got 3 groups. In the reporting group I've got 4 subgroups, and then in the daily here I've got 4 items. So there are 4 items which have been allocated into a subgroup. So if I want to report on just on that daily meters, that's the easiest way to get that data. So it's just a way of grouping data and making it easier for reporting. Here are all the items that we've got set up. So these are the all individual items, and if you click on that little button you'll jump into the item itself. So we can go through that in a bit. So let me just close that structure down. So site is similar in a way to the companies. It gives you've got access to edit all the site information. You can create a new site same way as you created a company, and basically when you create it you populate everything, and then you hit the create button and it will create it in the back end, and it'll automatically populate in here. You can also, so that gives you ability to edit those site properties. You can also add emails in here, and this is the emails that we used for sending out alerts, so they tend to get sent out at a site level. So that's sites. Now we've got groups. So those are the 3 groups that we saw a while ago in that structure. So this just edits the name of the group, and this will allow me to create a new group. And then you've got the subgroups underneath that. So if we looked at this group here called reporting, those are the 4 subgroups that we had, and again you can just create a new subgroup associated to this group reporting, and if you click on this button you'll get access to, you'll see all the items that are associated into that group, and you can check and uncheck those to add new items into that group. So it's very simple to do that. So that's the functionality there. Again, just editing allows you to change the name of the subgroup. So that's subgroups. And now really we're going to come to the items. Now items are the building block of MCE, and effectively there are two types of items. So here you've got all the names of all the items you're looking at. So we'll just stay on this 3-hour moving average. So that's its name. So it's this type which is the important one. So there are a number of different types. Fundamentally they are a raw type, so i.e. you are putting data into that particular item, or it's a calculated metric where you're using data from another raw item or another calculated item. And in MCE you can have an unlimited number of levels of calculation. So you can have one raw meter going to another calculated meter which is being used in numerous other calculated meters, and MCE maintains this whole understanding of which items are associated to which one. So if a new bit of raw data comes in, it knows what it has to calculate, and all of that data gets recalculated whenever a new bit of raw data is entered, or in fact when you change the underlying properties of that item. So that's what MCE is doing, is constantly recalculating data, constantly looking at whether the data is clean or it's dirty. And dirty is it's got a new bit of raw data associated to it, or a property has changed. So that's the type. I won't go into the various different types, but the mainly ones you're going to be using are absolute and some run stop data for pumps. Very useful. Start and end dates, they're just tell you when the item starts and ends its total calculation time. So that's really when you set the item up. Display units are the units that the data that you're going to calculate in this item are displayed in. So in this case it is kilowatt hours. You can associate costs with that. So actually we could associate a cost of electricity to that item if we wanted to. And you've got entry units. Now entry units are much more applicable when we've got raw data. So if I, for example, went and chose and looked at the electricity channel 1, here we've got entry units because what we're doing in this particular data set, we're bringing in units of watts, and that's being updated every minute or so, and we then convert that into kilowatt hour data, which is used to display. So we store it in watts and we can display that raw data in watts, but it's actually stored in kilowatt hour data in map for the calculated side of the data. Then we've got a whole lot of calculations. So if I go back to the 3-hour moving average calculation, that's the actual calculation syntax. So this is MCE syntax. It's actually, we can be relatively simple. This is a relatively simple one for looking at an average of a data set of the data. So it's basically averaging the last 3 hours of data. Or we can get very, very complicated, and you can get to very, very complex syntax in here. You can have there's unlimited number of characters. I think it may be limited to about 5,000 characters. Very large nested if statements, all of that can be held within this calculation syntax. There is an editor if you wanted to use it to simplify creating that syntax. There's more information on our website about how to do that as well. And then there's always a check syntax. So this goes back to MCE, and it checks the syntax of that particular calculation. And if it comes back green, then that's fine. That syntax has passed, and so that's a valid calculation syntax, which will be used for that metric. Now you can also actually take that same code and you can paste it. Control V, you can paste it into the high calc and you can paste it in the low calc. So the high calc and low calc are principally used to define alert limits. So these can be very complex calculations as well. Or they could just be a standard value, like a value of 25. So you've got the choice on that. So I'll just take those out at the moment because again it's read only. And so whenever you update the syntax once it's changed by hitting the update button, it goes back, sets that value in the database, and MCE then will go and use that calculation syntax to recalculate everything, and it does it pretty well instantaneously. You might wait 10-20 seconds for that to be recalculated, and even that's going back over numerous years of data. So that basically is the items. There's a couple of other features and functions in here which I won't go through principally in the advanced, it's all about aggregation of data, so you can have different aggregation periods. The timings I won't touch on at the moment, and the other benefit, or the other part of it, this is just about how you can very easily just upload a data file, it's a CSV file, or sorry, actually a text file, semicolon delimited text file, and this has just got date and time and the value, and you load it into here and it'll load that data. Normally we have FTP data coming into MCE, so it's coming in all the time, and we're loading it all in the back end, and that just automatically recalculates. But this is really good if you just set up a data and you just want to add some data very quickly. So that's items. Targets are associated to items, so you can choose an item and associate numerous targets to it. So electricity rate is quite a good one on this one. So here we've got a number of targets set up for this. Sorry, actually not it's the electricity. Sorry, it's the day-night electricity rate. That's the one I was looking for. So this is looking at syntax here. This is giving an example. So this is setting up a day-night tariff. So the syntax for this is sort of saying value at time, which is MCE syntax. Set between 7 o'clock and 11 and at midnight, it's going to use that value, and outside of that, it's going to use that value. So that's a very simple calculation just to be able to set a day-night tariff, and we've got a whole load of other syntaxes and calculation syntaxes to do other sort of complicated tariffs, etc., which I'm not going to go into here. So these targets, well, basically they're applying a calculation which will change the value of that calculated data for different times, at different points of time. Units just define, you can create your own units for a site, or you can use one of the existing global units. So we've got a whole list of global units to choose from. So using your own units is often useful for things like chemicals. We might have a bag of something or other, or that's giving you an idea of creating your own units you can apply to that site. Costs are associated to units, so effectively you choose your unit. In this case it's kilowatt hours. We've got a cost called electricity, and then you can go down and look at, you can again set multiple time-based values to use in your calculation. So this is actually using an average of the electricity rate in that calculation. So you can get very complex in managing and using costs and applying costs. And then also we've got a whole range of conversions. Now conversions are tied into the units. So if we choose kilowatt hour data, and look at the global conversions, there's a whole load of conversions here which are taking hours run data as entry units and turning it into kilowatt hour data by multiplying by a multiplier. So in this case it's called, this one here is a 0.5 kilowatt. So it's often used for pump run hours data. In this example, you'd apply that to a fixed speed pump of 0.5 kilowatts. It would turn hours run data into an approximation of kilowatt hours. Those are global ones, so there are no specific ones set up for this site, but they're very easy to set up and create. And I think that covers most of the functionality of the setup. As I say, there are additional videos on the analytics, and there are additional videos on the widgets as well, which will display this data. So thank you very much for your time, and we hope that you take time to see the other videos. Bye.